Welcome to the lecture on Common Visual Supports for the Special Education Assistant Diploma Program at Stenberg College. At the end of this session, you should be able to explain the importance of visual supports, list the different uses of visual supports, and describe several commonly used visuals. The overview for this session is why are visuals important, main uses of visual supports, visuals for giving effective directions, visuals for giving information, visuals to organize the environment, visuals to communicate across environments, and visuals to communicate about feelings. Why are visuals important? Visual supports help students to maintain attention, to understand spoken language, and to sequence and organize their environment. Visuals are proactive or antecedent strategies. This means that they are put in place before a situation occurs as a preventative strategy. So the use of visual supports helps us to increase positive behaviors and decrease challenging behaviors. There are many visual supports available and an endless number that you can custom make for a particular student and situation. It is important to identify why a visual support is needed or what purpose it will serve. Broadly speaking, the uses of visual supports are as follows. Visuals to give effective directions, visuals to give information, visuals to organize the environment, visuals to communicate across environments, and visuals to communicate about feelings. Let's look at visuals for giving effective directions. We use visuals to support directions and instructions for students by helping them establish and maintain attention, clarify instructions, perform a task to completion, and then this will help you to repeat yourself less often, to be consistent with the language you use to give directions, and to reduce the intensity of support needed. It also helps us to be consistent with training procedures and expectations. This slide is an example of a visual support used to communicate the rules or procedures for circle time. A young child attending preschool or kindergarten for the first time will not know what is expected of them and may not fully understand the teacher's spoken directions. So we will help them become successful and independent by showing them what the expectations are. These rules are depicted one by one, sequentially, and have a space on the right-hand side where a check mark or an X can go once the step is completed. This keeps the student on track. If the student loses focus during circle by, for example, putting their legs out straight in front of them and moving them up and down, the circle time visual can be shown again while pointing to the fix your legs picture. With regular and consistent use, the student will become increasingly independent at circle time. A verbal direction ring consists of commonly used directions or commands that we seem to give our kids and students all day long. These commands are paired with a visual and worn on a retractable ring so that you can support your words with a visual representation. They are not activities, so they would not go on a schedule. They go with you, the educational assistant. They are positive commands, so you are telling your students what they should do, not what they should not do. A verbal direction ring can be customized for a student if a particular redirection is needed. For example, if you have a child who spits, you could have a picture for spit in sink. When used consistently, our students come to better understand and follow these commands. Here we have another visual support for giving directions called a countdown strip. A countdown strip is generally used to help a student get through a difficult or unpreferred activity and helps to decrease anxiety by showing them when that activity will be finished. Not knowing if or when an activity will end causes anxiety to rise, which can, as you know, lead to problem behaviors. One way to use the countdown strip looks much like a timer, but one that you can control. For example, if your student has a difficult time transitioning off the playground once recess is over, you can carry this with you to count them down. When you are 5 minutes away from the end of recess, show your student the countdown strip with all 5 numbers and say, 5 minutes, then recess is finished. After a minute goes by, show your student the visual again, this time removing the number 5 and saying, 4 minutes, then recess is finished, and so on until no numbers remain and it's time to go inside. Having the visual supports the processing. It's helpful to note that when using this visual, you can control how fast or how slow the countdown is, which gives you more flexibility in handling a situation. A second way to use this visual is to count down the number of tasks or items that need to be completed. So, for instance, when doing math, you can show your student that they have to complete 5 questions, or if doing a puzzle, that they have to put in 3 more pieces before they are finished. Again, it shows them when an activity will end, but it's also useful in helping students to focus and persevere on an activity, and it helps you to maintain instructional control. A first-then pocket is also used to visualize the giving of directions. It is important to note that this is not a schedule. It does not give a preview of activities. Rather, it helps a student accomplish an unpreferred activity and follows the format of unpreferred, preferred. This first-then pocket shows that a student must first complete a work task before he can go to the swing. The first-then format can be used to help students learn to do something new, such as first go down the slide, then you can play on the swings, or even to try new foods, such as first eat 1 grape, then you can have a fishy cracker. When using this, be conscious of the fact that the preferred item has to be powerful. The student has to really want or enjoy it. Over time, preferences can change and lose strength, and you may need to be assessing them often. Contingency maps enhance the effectiveness of directions by helping students visualize decision-making and what the possible outcomes might look like. They typically have a space for a goal, task, or activity on the left-hand side, then a positive or preferred pathway in green along the top, and a negative or unpreferred pathway in red along the bottom. So this provides a visual representation of outcomes that, when given verbally, might be too complex for a student to process and remember and understand. But when presented as a visual, it's there for as long as the student needs in order to study it, to process it, and to understand. This contingency map tells us what happens when my teacher gives me work. If I follow the green path, I do my work or ask for help. I finish my work and I feel proud and my teacher is happy. If, however, I follow the red path, I say no and sit at my desk. My work is not done and I feel upset and my teacher is frustrated. Visual supports can also be used to give students information. Information is one of the functions of communication. At home and at school, most information is given verbally, and it's really important that we don't assume that a student already knows the information or that they can remember information that was given yesterday or last week or a month ago. We need to use visuals to help them better handle situations that may be difficult or confusing. Perhaps the most important tool for giving information is a visual schedule, which shows the student what activities they will do during the day, when those activities will occur, and in what order. A visual schedule is real objects for students with visual impairments, symbols such as board maker or symbol sticks, written words for students who are literate, or an app on an iPad or an iPhone such as ChoiceWorks. A visual schedule is not optional. Having access to a visual schedule will decrease anxiety, help ease transitions, and increase independence and a feeling of confidence. So a visual schedule is a consistent set of symbols. It's set up to give students information about the shape of their day in a logical, structured, and sequential form. Reduces anxiety, adds predictability to the daily routine, which makes transitions easier, helps students be more independent in their daily routine, and reduces power struggles. You don't always have to be the one telling the student what they need to do and where they need to be. You can say, please check your schedule. The schedule is what's telling the students what comes next. So just to give you an idea of what the types of visual schedules might look like, this is ChoiceWorks, which again is an app on an iPad or an iPhone. This is a written schedule for a student who can read. A schedule made of symbols from BoardMaker. And this would be an object schedule set up in baskets for a student who is visually impaired. Mini schedules or routine strips give information in a how-to manner. They provide support for tasks that have a particular order or sequence. Some of these tasks have many steps and the burden on memory is great. So what we do is we begin with a task analysis and break these routines into a more manageable sequence of steps. Many functional skills and activities of daily living can be depicted as routine strips or mini schedules. For example, washing your hands, brushing your teeth, making lunch, washing dishes. And these steps can be mastered one at a time if necessary. But if you keep the mini schedule and routine strip in the same place, the place where the routine is carried out, and you practice it consistently every day, eventually the student will be able to carry out that particular routine independently and successfully. So here are a couple of examples of mini schedules or routine strips. The first one is for hand washing, and it depicts wet your hands, get soap, scrub your hands, rinse your hands, turn off the water, and dry your hands. And here is one for making a sandwich. Find the bread, find the peanut butter, find the jelly, find the knife, spread peanut butter and jelly on the bread, close the bread to make a sandwich. Let's talk a little bit about calendars for giving information. We all use calendars to order our lives and keep track of events, whether it's an old-fashioned wall calendar or a calendar on a smartphone. We like to know when our dentist appointments are, when we're getting our hair cut, and what time we need to be at the airport for our flight to Cancun. Calendars keep us organized and reduce our anxiety by giving a bigger preview of events in order. Our students are no different, and in fact, it's very important to introduce time concepts such as yesterday, today, and tomorrow to help them talk about when activities and events occur. An important function of communication is the sharing of information, which not only builds connections with others, but also plays a role in safety and well-being. The main purpose of a choice board is to give information about what options are available during an activity. We want our students to learn to have a voice, to express their preferences and opinions, and develop self-advocacy. But we want to do this at appropriate times as well. Students cannot do whatever they want whenever they want. A break might be scheduled, for example, only after 3 work activities have been completed. Scheduling a break wherein the student knows they will be able to choose a preferred activity can be very motivating, much like our own coffee break. If your student is new to choice making, you can limit the number of items on the choice board at first and slowly build up as they become more proficient. Choice boards can be available for various activities such as sensory breaks, snack time, or music class. They can also be used to help students with limited interests expand their leisure options. For instance, if a student only wants to choose iPad for break, you can leave the picture for iPad off the choice board and offer other options instead. All of our students hear no from time to time, but not all of our students understand what that means. It may be helpful to use a visual marker to indicate that something is unavailable right now. This can be done very simply with a dry erase marker by placing an X over the pick symbol, or you can print out the universal symbol for no, which is the red circle with a slash through it, from BoardMaker, Symbol Sticks, or other symbol libraries. And in a similar fashion, you might need to teach your student the concept of finish with a visual support. And again, I know we've talked about this previously, but not knowing when or if activities will finish can be a source of anxiety, especially if the activity is unpreferred. And you can indicate finished with a pocket or a basket. You would use a visual and pair it with the word and the physical movement. So here is a finished pocket with snack depicted on the strip. So the picture of snack is depicted for the duration of that activity, but when it's finished, you would physically remove the snack from the strip and put it in the pocket saying, "Snack is finished." Let's talk a little bit about using visuals to organize the environment. Our students' organizational systems can range from very rigid to very chaotic, and coping with environments and environmental demands can be extremely challenging. Using visuals can help with comprehension and efficient functioning. It can help those who are very rigid become more relaxed and those who are very chaotic become more organized. Most of our students really enjoy the structure and organization that visuals can bring. One of the ways in which we can use visuals to organize the environment is by labeling. Many aspects of our environment are labeled so that we can function more effectively. For example, signs to show where bathrooms are, signs for bus stops, exits, and aisle markers in grocery stores, and so forth. We are able to both recognize these labels and act appropriately to the information given. However, our students may need to be taught explicitly what the labels mean and how they should act. We can start by labeling the classroom environment. We can label our students' personal items and spaces such as lockers, desks, mailboxes, and backpacks. We can label where things belong, which items go on shelves, which items go in drawers, where our finished work needs to be. And we can label activities and areas, such as the circle time area, the library, gym, and music classes, or the lunch table. This is an example of bins that are labeled to show students which toys go in which bins. Another way that we can use visuals to organize the environment is by teaching students to use lists and to create lists. And again, we create lists for many things in our daily lives: shopping lists, to-do lists, and so on and so forth. So lists are useful visuals for our students as well, and they can be incorporated into many daily activities such as art. What supplies do you need to carry out the art project? Gym. What items need to go into your gym bag, or what does your gym strip look like? Cooking. What will you need to buy prior to making a recipe? What are the steps for making the recipe? And so on and so forth. Swimming. What kinds of things do you need to pack in your bag before you go swimming tomorrow? What do you need to bring to school tomorrow? So this is a great life skill, plus it's a great opportunity to practice language skills and communication. And here's just an example of a shopping list that was created using BoardMaker. Signs also help us to organize the environment visually. You can place signs around the school and the home environment to give information regarding activities and expectations. In many of our schools, we have stop signs on all the doors, and that gives the student the information that they are not allowed to go out through that door, at least not without an adult, so they have to stop. We have signs on our bathrooms. We have signs for different rooms. And these signs convey meaning about what happens in or at a particular place. And again, you need to use them consistently. You need to be patient. You need to practice. Visual supports also help us help our students to communicate across environments. Our students' learning does not end when school ends. Their lives do not begin at 8:20 and end at 2:30. They have people, activities, and interests that go beyond school. So we have to help them bridge these environments and provide them with supports that allow them to communicate everywhere with anyone about anything. Parents and caregivers want and need to know how their children's day went. They want to know, how was your day today? What did you do? Who did you play with at recess? Did you eat all of your lunch? When children have complex communication needs, a vacuum can exist around the time that they spend away from home. We have tools that can begin to fill that vacuum in. A Today at School visual can be created using the same pictures and symbols that students use at school with their schedules. So at the end of the school day, you go over the visual, talking about the activities that occurred and helping the student to indicate these either with a bingo dabber, with a crayon, by circling it, and so forth. They can also include space to communicate about feeding, toileting, medication, medical issues, sensory needs, and so forth. And they're a great way for us to model and teach about personal narratives and to help students communicate what happened. This is an example of a visual support to communicate to school staff and friends about my weekend at home. So remember, when you're planning communication opportunities for your student, that the goal is for them to have and share experiences much as their peers do. When kids come to school on Monday morning, some time is spent talking with friends about what they did on the weekend. In fact, kids talk with their friends every day about what they did the day before when they were not with their friends. They talk about soccer practice, ballet, and the movie they watched before bed. They talk about homework and how mad they are at their brother. Students with complex communication needs deserve the same opportunities to communicate, but they need visual supports, scaffolding, and time to develop these skills. Do not assume that events that happen outside of school are not important to them. Provide them with the tools that will one day allow them to communicate independently. Parents and caregivers and often siblings at your student's school can provide you with information about important things in their lives. When you create a visual around your students' interests, they will be much more motivated to participate and learn, and as well, their peers will learn more about them, which in itself creates a bridge to developing relationships. And last but not least, let's talk about visuals to communicate about feelings. For many of our students, feelings are very abstract concepts and prove to be difficult to talk about. Oftentimes, we are guessing as to how they feel, and much of our teaching revolves around pairing what we see in their faces and behaviors with words and pictures, as well as talking about how we are feeling and modeling the corresponding pictures. If our students with complex communication needs do not learn to talk about their feelings, the results can be devastating. Remember, big feelings can lead to big behaviors. We do not want our students to leave high school and enter adulthood unable to regulate and control their emotions. We need to teach them how they can manage their feelings and regulate their physical states. A 6-year-old child tantruming is one thing, but a 20-year-old is quite another. Not only will it be seen as socially unacceptable, it's extremely undignified and can have serious consequences for their safety and that of others. One popular program for teaching self-regulation in recent years is Zones of Regulation, which uses color coding, pictures, feelings, and actions to teach students that they can cope. For example, if I'm in the blue zone, I might be feeling tired and I might need to take a nap. If I'm in the yellow zone, I might feel agitated and need to visit the calm down room to settle myself before rejoining the class. When teaching about feelings and physical states, it's important to be consistent and persistent. Again, these skills are very important for future independence and dignity. This is an example of a feelings board made with BoardMaker. It can be used throughout the school day to check in and monitor feelings and physical states. It's a good idea to make it a part of the arrival routine. If your student arrives at school upset or hungry, you can take steps right away to remedy that and start the day off on a positive note. You can also check in after your student is successful with an activity, modeling happy or proud, or before lunch, modeling hungry. Take advantage of as many opportunities as you can to model during your time with your student. Finally, a word about social stories, which can include one or all of the uses of visual supports mentioned in this PowerPoint. A social story is a simple description of an everyday social situation written from a child's perspective. It can be used to prepare a student for an upcoming change in routine, to help them better understand a new concept or a social situation, or to modify maladaptive behavior. Social stories work best when you read them repeatedly with your student to help them internalize the information. Let's have a look at an example. This social story is about making mistakes. When I'm trying something new or when I am doing my work, it's okay to make mistakes. When I make a mistake, I will stay calm and try again. I do not need to get upset. It is okay. If I need help with something, I will ask a friend or my teacher. Can you help me, please? Everyone makes mistakes. When something isn't right, I can always try again. That is how I learn. In summary, visual supports are an essential addition to your EA toolbox. Visual supports give effective directions, give information, organize the environment, communicate across environments, and communicate about feelings and physical states.